Imagine a matchup between a character that everyone hates and one who's supremely better in stats, skills, powers, and pretty much every conceivable aspect you could think of, aka the perfect curb stomp deliverer for all of us to cheer for. Now, if you will, imagine a matchup between a character who seemingly holds all the cards in the table, but is put against someone with a very specific ability that may or may not change the conversation altogether. Now imagine these two matchups had hot, steamy and disgusting sex together, and you would more or less end up with Mahito vs Shigaraki, aka Dead Battle's next confirmed matchup. Not gonna lie, it's pretty damn exciting to have another villain vs villain and anime themed episode. This one in particular puts two long-haired villains with probably way too many hands for comfort, who seek to destroy society on both the physical and the societal level, particularly by targeting the kind and selfless, heroic protagonist they antagonize the most, twisting and decaying everything they touch to downright disastrous levels. Also, fun fact, they were both inspired by famous body horror themed manga, Akira and Parasite respectively. Now, on my side of things, the last time JJK was on the show, I was less familiar with it, but way more familiar with Chainsaw Man. Hence why I saw Gojo as my go-to card to humiliatingly defeat Makima. Let's just say I needed some catharsis back then. And now here we are with another character I'm less familiar with, but I'm definitely very much aware of the JJK one now. And yes, I do want him to suffer another humiliating death again. But does Shiggy have the tools for the job? Time to find out. Kakling! Imagine if I have cool mask thingy, this won't work. Time to find out. Cha-ching! Alrighty, like with Kratos vs Asura, this matchup that requires some exposition on its details. Two questions come to mind when it comes to Shigarito. Number one being, can you equalize My Hero Academia Vestiges and JJK Souls in the same way Gojo vs Makima equalized Chainsaw Man Devils and JJK Curses? Now, Vestiges and My Hero Academia are not souls in the traditional sense, more so they're the souls attached to the in-universe superpowers of the setting, called quirks. Imagine if Cyclops' soul was attached to his laser beams or if Flash's soul was attached to his super speed. Just because they're called differently, I don't really think that alone should exclude them from the classification though. Like, staying in the realm of comics, meta-human is a term for superpowered people in DC Comics, and mutant is a term for people born with superpower in Marvel Comics. In the same way, quirks is basically the equivalent of superpowers in My Hero Academia. For all intents and purposes, Vestiges are the in-universe souls equivalent, and here's why. Number one, they both exist in separate mental worlds of sorts, innate domains in JJK case. Number two, they're both tied to the body and abilities. Vestiges are tied to quirk factors, and in JJK the soul and body are the same thing altogether, even existing within the in-universe muggles, such as quirkless heroes like Knuckle Duster having a vestige, or non-sorcerers having souls to begin with. Number 3, both can be used to fight against attacks on the spiritual level, like what Sukuna did to spiritually protect himself and Yuji from Mahito, and what All For One and his Vestiges did to Star and Stripes to spiritually protect himself and Shigaraki from her. Number 4, Shigaraki himself is indeed in a similar situation to Yuji, as he has another soul, All For One, and much like inside him, and much like Yuji is able to suppress that soul, even if it occasionally fights back. Now, All For One literally died and came back to life using Shigaraki's body, so it's not some mind control attempt. It's exactly like what Sukuna did to a certain character in JJK. I don't wanna get into spoilers yet. In My Hero Academia Vigilantes, Koichi sees visions of Knuckle Duster and Pop's phantoms, later proven to actually be there as Knuckle Duster's vestige banishes All For Ones from the area. Interestingly, such vestiges disappear once the actual bodies are saved, as if their soul was dragged back into the world of the living. Important to note, Knuckle Duster did not have a quirk at his time, yet he had a vestige. On the topic of All For One, in chapter 423, he literally calls his vestige soul after Izuku Midoriya starts attacking it. So my answer to the question on whether vestiges can count as souls would be, I don't see why not. Like, You will need some big stretching to see the two as incompatible by any magic. Are you okay? I'm asking because I'm gonna be as brutally honest as possible. All of Mahito's winning chances hinge on not equalizing My Hero Academia Vestiges with JJK Souls, and making Shigaraki lose even then would basically be a Super Saiyan paradox sort of deal. Speaking of, no, Mahito doesn't have any Sandisk level mental gymnastics thingy. Especially since he's far removed from the story by the time the verse gets even remotely near talks or planetary level stuff. Next big question. Can Shigaraki even see Mahito? In the world of JJK, cursed spirits like Mahito are usually impossible to be seen or touched by non-sorcerers, but if such sorcerer ends up in a life or death situation by such curse, they may gain the ability to see it. Now, JJK curses still ultimately occupy a physical space, just on a different light spectrum. As in, you will see a mattress bend slightly if a curse decides to sit on it, but you won't see who is sitting on it. And with Shigaraki having powers like infrared and vibration that allow the user to sense their entire surroundings, search that projects an entire outline over nearby enemies from a distance, and non-sorcerers like Maki using the environment and sensing changes in the density of the air to fight Naoya, things that Shigaraki should 100% be able to replicate, and Toji being able to see curses despite lacking curse energy, I honestly believe there are vastly more arguments for Shigaraki to be able to see Mahito than there are not. Amongst his many superpowers, that we will touch upon soon enough, Shigaraki has Danger Sense, a power that allows him to detect any danger, hostility, bloodlust, and negative emotions in general. Surprise surprise, Mahito is a being literally born out of negative emotions. If anything, I think this power will make it so that Shigi gets a freaking headache as soon as Mahito gets even remotely close. So, here's what I think is gonna happen in the episode, assuming they just won't skip this beat and make it so that they can interact just fine. Your opinion may vary on whether that breaks JJK lore or not. At the start of the fight, Shigi won't be able to see Mahito, but he will see the outline of a weird twink doing zesty movements, all while going through a head-splitting migraine. Then as soon as Mahito tried to touch him with his cheese touch power, aka very much putting Shigi in a life or death situation, the latter will now be able to fully see him, probably pulling a "I see you" a la Sauron as he slowly turns his eyes to him. Then the fight starts. That's my take anyway. Skills and experience. The story of Tenko Shimura is a tragic one. In a world where almost everyone is born with a superpower, called quirk, in a reverse X-Men situation, many strive to be heroes, and Tenko was no different. And as far as superhero backstories go, he already had the tragedy aspect on deck. Always in pain due to unknown allergy, abused by his hero-hating father, abandoned by his mother, and top it all off, when he finally unlocked his quirk, it resulted in him accidentally kill his entire family. After wandering the streets, helplessly crying for help, his pleas were finally met by the supervillain All For One, who groomed him into hating superhero society as a whole and to become his next successor, under the name Tomura Shigaraki, ready to plunge anything that breathes into chaos and decay. Shigi's combat skills highly improved to the course of this series, especially after training with fellow supervillain Gigantomachia, to the point of matching blows against his archenemy Deku and various superheroes during the war arc. He later gains the knowledge and skills of All For One himself, including over an entire century worth of combat experience. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, we have things called curses, born out of humanity's negative emotions. One of these spirits happen to embody the hate, disgust, and fear humans have for one another. Enter Mahito. Born out of these emotions and trying to figure out who he was, he later joined forces with the other special grade spirits who happen to embody natural disasters, the disaster curses, led by Kenjaku. True to his nature, Mahito spent his relatively short lifespan to be as cruelly evil, sickening, disgusting, sadistic, and downright despicable as inhumanly possible, twisting and mutating humans for his own sick amusement, his ends becoming the perfect instruments to embody his twisted ideals of perfection. Despite being only a few months old, Mahito was no slouch in the combat department, fighting on equal ground with with a veteran Nanami and training the high school student Junpei into years worth of Jujutsu sorcery in a short amount of time. The power to create clones mid-combat certainly helps in being quite a disorienting photo fight, which happens to be a perfect segue into the fact that this stitched up freak loves to play mind games, mentally breaking his opponents on top of catching them off guard with his quick learning skills. And if all else fails, he can just shapeshift into a snail and slither away, like the little bitch he is. Mahito gathered quite a reputation in and out of the show, mostly due to being the most sadistic character in the entire cast, who tortures and mutilates civilians for fun, using their mangled and still conscious bodies as weapons mid-fights while they're still alive. He killed 2-3 beloved characters, one of which groomed into becoming a villain after killing his fine-ass mom, is partially responsible for sealing Gojo into another dimension, and traumatized the sweetheart protagonist Yuji Itadori. Taking all that into consideration, it's not too difficult why Mahito is basically the Homelander and or Makima of this fight, or even the members of the same fandom root for his defeat. Don't get me wrong, Shigaraki is an unredeemable asshole in many aspects too. Hell, he even packs a bigger body count and even plays League of Legends. But his tragic backstory, coupled with the fact that he does generally value his fellow teammates as actual friends, on top of being a victim of grooming instead of a culprit, easily makes him the relatively lesser of the two evils. You know that villains meme where one of them was long lore or wider evil, whereas the other is more like it would be mad funny? That's these two in a nutshell. Now back on the category we were on. Don't get too used to this, but this category is somewhat a tricky one to decide. On one hand, Shigi carries way more experience. It's a difference between a century between a few months. But Mahito has shown to quickly adapt into new combat situations, like the difference between a technician and a performer. Shigaraki's track record with individual hand-to-hand fights is kinda embarrassing. As we will get over soon enough, both him and his mentor All For One are simply more accustomed to relying on their many superpowers rather than straightforward make, you know? So all in all, Mahito takes a slight advantage in skills, while Shigaraki takes a huge edge in inexperience. Because let's be for real, in terms of age, it's basically fighting an infant here. Strength. After being experimented on by Dr. Garaki, oh I see where it comes from now, Shigaraki found himself with a body on par with the most powerful superhero in the series, All Might. In terms of strength, speed and durability. All Might is the same fella that can create and nullify tornadoes with his punches alone. On the topic of windy weather, one of Shigi's powers, Hair Cannon, can destroy entire city blocks, making for roughly 1.1 kilotons of TNT or 1100 tons of TNT. And him having a complete version of the All For One quirk, which is both the name of a quirk and a character, we'll get over that later, should make him superior to 9, who can create a colossal storm. He really brings the thunder when it comes to scaling to 100% All For All Deku, whom, alongside a similarly amped up Bakugo, managed to punch so hard that they dispersed an entire storm. Now, if we were early on in this series, we would have to split the attack portals in two. But since Deku got enormously more powerful since then, I think it's fair to say full power Deku can now fully scale to all 7.72 teratons of TNT of this feat, 5,700 followed by 9 zeros tons of TNT, which will put both him and Shigaraki at small country level. If you wanna kick it up just for shits and giggles, an exhausted Deku managed to throw a weather-changing punch from Japan to America, which has been calculated around 42.3 petatons, translating into 423 followed by 14 zeros tons, aka multi-continental. Despite his scrawny frame, Mahito's strength is enough to pummel robots with one swing, slice and break to concrete, shatter a subway's floor, and scale to his heroic archenemy Yuji, who can casually destroy steel doors and cars. He should also be comparable to fellow disaster-cursed spirit Hanami, who can spread and grow trees with an energy of roughly 3 kilotons of TNT, or 3000 tons, which is already higher than the first numbers I gave for Shigi. I'm sure this is a good sign for Mahito's chances. Scaling to Shibuya Hakyuji would also mean that scaling to base form Yuta, who in turn reflected Yui's street leveling blast, bringing us anywhere between large city to multi-city block level. Okay, getting somewhere here. Scaling to fellow disaster curse Jogo means that Mahito should be scaled to a maximum of 832 kilotons, or 832,000 tons, of TNT, aka the energy of the Shibuya annihilating meteor summoned by the Cyclops. Mahito has a special form that looks as hideous as it is named. Instant body or distorted killing. Sometimes you really can't tell this guy is a few months old. Anyway, this form should give him a 200% power boost. Rounding up all of these numbers together, Mahito should reach power around 1,664,000 tons of TNT. The impressive power of 0.0000164 teratons, 1.6 megatons, barely into small city level. Meaning that by my own personal calculations, this would make Shigaraki roughly, 2 billion times stronger than Mahito. Yeah, as a fun point of reference, that's the same proportional difference between 1 second and 63 years. Off to a great start. Speed. Shigaraki's speeds allow him to blitz Liberation Army members, leap faster than the speed of sound, and outpace Tokoyami, whose Dark Shadow can block Kaminari's electricity. Him being stated to be as fast as Prime All Might, and shown to keep up with Deku, easily puts him in the higher hypersonic ranges of speed, but it gets crazier than that. His equal Deku also reacted to Lady Nagant's bullets, which travel from Tokyo to the UA fortress in Hamamatsu, at speeds anywhere between Mach 6700 to 2% the speed of light. Similarly, he also narrowly avoids a few lasers, reaching speeds anywhere between 9 to 35% the speed of light, all of which falls into the sub-relativistic levels of speed. Shigaraki himself kept up with Star and Stripes, who can catch a laser Shigaraki redirected at, you guessed it, 2% the speed of light, which I'd safely say solidifies Shigaraki's speeds in the sub-relativistic, aka just below light speed, ranges. Being the slippery little bitch that he is, Mahito is an expert at running away. Again, by directly scaling to his heroic archenemy Yuji, who can react and avoid gunfire and the supersonic bloodshot technique, that should put him into hypersonic as well. He also stated to be able to give fellow supervillain Kenjaku a difficult fight. The same Kenjaku fast enough to avoid arrows, sniper fire, and again supersonic bloodshot mere centimeters away, all of which should put Kenjaku at Mach 7. The peak of Mahito's speeds, however, come with him being able to perform a Black Flash technique, which involves, and I quote, applying cursed energy within a microsecond of striking your opponent, making for a devastating blow that no Jujutsu sorcerer can perform at will per se, but your mind kinda needs to be in that zone, you know? But many are capable of activating the unconscious reaction within this time frame. The fastest possible conscious human reactions are anywhere between 0.15 to 0.2 seconds, but unconscious human reactions are much faster, around 0.08 seconds in fact, since the signal doesn't have to travel to the brain. This type of reaction is usually in response to dangerous stimuli like blinking when something gets too close to your eyes, which accidentally makes the name Black Flash very fitting. Using the ratio between reflexive reactions and conscious reactions, which is about a 3 times multiplier, it should be reasonable to gauge the normal reaction in relation to the reflexive activation, or more simply, 1 feet divided by 1 microsecond times 0.08 divided by 0.025 equals 97,536 meters per second or Mach 284. If you wanna give Mahito the 120% boost of power, that gets us to Mach 310. As you can probably expect from the fact that I stopped using Mach metrics with Shigaraki halfway to his rundown, the young supervillain takes the edge in this category too by sheer virtue of being 61 times faster than even Mahito's higher speed ends. Hell, forget fancy numbers, Shigaraki is shown to just be visually faster, making shockwaves with even basic movements, something that in JJK speedsters like Naoya have shown to do. If Mahito somehow tries to pull a quick one by touching Shigi's souls while distracting him with a decoy or minion, reminder that Todo managed to notice and chop off its disfigured hands after being touched for 0.2 seconds. Everyone loves Todo, but it's pretty fair to say that if he can accomplish that, so should the supremely faster and more regenerative Shigi. Durability. Shigaraki is one tough son of a bitch. Again, by sheer virtue of scaling to Deku and All Might, this means he can withstand multiple street-tearing and weather-altering attacks back to back to back. Endeavors disintegrating Prominence and Burn, Bakugo's strongest explosion, and that guy can create a tornado, that's just by preparing the damn thing, and by scaling / surpassing Prime All for One, he should be able to tank hits from a bloodlusted Gigantomachia, who can destroy entire mountains, aka almost 20 megatons or 20 million tons of TNT. The craziest numbers Mr. Dust to Dust over here can brag about, however, come from his encounter with Stars and Stripes, in which the latter used nothing short of 10 missiles to try and end the guy, unsuccessfully so, to the point where it's downright stated that humanity lacks the arsenal to kill him. The explosion generated by the several intercontinental missiles they tried to use on him was calculated to be around 7.912 teratons, or 792 followed by 90 tons of TNT, aka small to large country level, in power scaling terms. Being a special grade or spirit, shotguns and tanks are pretty much useless against Mahito. Ditto goes for tons and tons of falling concrete, or hell, even being punched to a stone bridge. He again scales to Yuji Itadori, who's able to hit cars and punch through steel doors, if not throw someone through multiple floors directly. Energy blasts from Kokichi were able to only slightly burn him, and this is the same guy whose Mechamaru units can damage parts of a forest, up to 12.2 tons of TNT, aka City Block. He also managed to survive 3 Black Flashes, with 5 being said to be enough to kill his fellow disaster curse Jogo, feasibly assuming that good old Magma Cyclops can dish as much as it can withstand. This would bring us to his town disintegrating and earthquake causing meteor, which again 832 kilotons of TNT or large town level. Going by the highest ends possible, this will make Shigaraki roughly oh my god, roughly 9 million times more durable than anything Mahito has ever shown to withstand. If you're having trouble quantifying that, it's roughly the difference between 1 second and a Phineas and Ferb summertime. And there's 104 days of summer vacation. Equipment. Hands. Yep, those are the hands of his deceased family members, provided by All for One so that Shigaraki has a constant reminder and a mental block installed. Talk about a hands-on approach to parenting, quirk bullets. Once these bad boys are shot and the poison flows to your veins, say bye-bye to your quirk. Nomus. Basically dead people reanimated to serve as mindless monsters for Shigaraki. Each Nomu had their bodies heavily modified and altered with multiple quirks thanks to All for One. The top tier are called the knee-high-end Nomus, and after the war, Shigi managed to keep hold of 7 of them, whom he can order around or teleport to his location via the superpower called Warping. More on that shortly. Transfigured human supplies. Like a demented version of a Pokemon trainer, Mahito cares finger-sized deformed humans he can use to outnumber his foes. Obviously the result of him altering normal people's souls for his twisted experiments. These monsters follow Mahito's command and he normally brings a good chunk of them in battle, roughly 1,000, and they go down pretty easily. They do come in all shapes and sizes though, and are usually been used for low-grade sorcerer and regular humans, who yes, can see and physically interact with them with no issue. So should Shigaraki. And for the first time in my prediction videos, I actually plan to call this category null. Mahito doesn't have any quirks for Shigaraki bullets to affect them. Shigaraki's hands are purely for aesthetics, and both of their powers allow them to make easy work of their opponent's respective minions. Whether it's Mahito idle transfiguring the Nomus, or Shigaraki's decay being able to erase even all 1,000 transfigured humans in mere seconds. Same thing applies if Mahito tries to turn the Nomus on Shigi, which he should be able to do, but besides enhancing the animation potential, is not really a factor in this debate. Powers and X. If you thought that Spawn won the superpower lottery, oh my dear boy, you ain't saying shit. Garaki. All for One. The quirk, not a character, is one of the strongest quirks to ever exist next to its good counterpart One for All, which is held by All Might and later his successor Deku. All for One allows you to steal and stack up other people's quirks, making for a collection that currently includes Spring-like Limbs. Allows the user to, you guessed it, store and release energy like a spring, allowing you to leap over tall buildings in a single bound. Levitation/flight. Thanks to the quirk hair working, the user is able to float in any direction and move as if there were invisible jumping pads in the air. Alternatively, he can just sprout black wings from his back and fly in a more traditional sense. Extra sensory perception. By possessing infrared ray, vibration sensing and danger sense, Shigaraki's senses are basically an unholy spawn of the spider sense and daredevil searing, feeling the entirety of his surroundings via vibrations like a snake and react to threats to a superhuman degree. All for One, the character, should be a blind man, yet with these quirks it's as if he basically isn't. Tentacle manipulation. Thanks to Rivet Stab, Shigaraki can regenerate and control red tendrils from his body, like any proper edgy boy with body horror powers can, allowing him to, you guessed it, easily grab multiple things at once, even giving him surprising pain tolerance. Hair Cannon. Shigaraki can shoot waves of pressurized air from his palms, meaning he can basically punch the shit out of you without even contact. Hell, he can even use it as a barrier against attacks. Heavy Payload. Shigaraki can combine radio waves and air cannon to create a giant beam of electrical energy in his fight against Tyrant Stripes. Laser. Keeping it in the realm of sparky boom boom stuff, this quirk fires a powerful laser capable of one-shotting the aptly named Gigantomachia and Tomoyami's Abyssal's black body. Hard Flame Fan. Basically a literal firewall that Shigaraki can use for defense. Impact Recoil. Stay in the territory of defense, this quirk allows the user to Uno reverse the impact caused by a physical force. Note I said physical, so it won't work against flames or energy burst. Reflect allows a similar effect, in which you can basically recreate the same strength you just got hit by, only towards one direction though, and obviously it won't work if you didn't get hit first. Scatter allows Shigaraki to split up multiple projectiles before firing them, increasing their strength and range, allowing him to fire back multiple recreations of the same attack. Search. With a name as straightforward as this useful, this quirk allows the user to scan a huge area and find enemies, seeing them from a distance, cluing them on their strengths and weakness with a simple look, even through obstacles, forming an outline around them like some sort of video game. Gear Shift. This quirk allows Shigaraki to change the speed of anything he touches, including himself. Limited teleportation. With the quirk Warping, the user can forcefully teleport others, but not oneself and not anywhere. Moving someone so that they can take an attack not meant for them is just a dick move though. Decay. This is Shigaraki's main quirk, potentially the most dangerous one on the planet. If he were to touch something or someone with all 5 fingers, Shigaraki can cause said object to literally decay into nothing, organic or not. As you can imagine, decay later evolved into something downright apocalyptic, being able to extend it across the ground and rapidly cover entire cities, bypassing any physical defenses or even just decaying whatever Shigaraki wants specifically. Not even glass, which would normally require 1 million years to decompose, is safe on its effects. Hell, it even managed to affect Redestro stress energy, a physically manifested form of negative emotions. Sounds familiar? Evolution. Due to All for One being basically a compendium of superpowers, after merging with it, Shigaraki's body began to evolve in response. In true Tetsuo fashion, this results in Shigaraki being able to generate thousands of grotesque giant arms and hands and fingers from his body, which further expands the devastating area of effect that comes with decay, holding down many opponents at once, increase his sticking power, or straight up surf on them. He can even generate a whole new body for himself after Deku managed the previous one, like a messed up butterfly metamorphosis. Cursed Spirit Existence. Mahito is no ordinary fella, but a cursed spirit. This means that both him and fellow spirits are generally invisible to the naked eye and video devices. That said though, they do still occupy a physical space and can be touched by beings with cursed zero energy, but shouldn't normally be physically harmed by them, unless you were to use powers that affect souls, resemble cursed energy, or something else entirely. Way more on that later. Cursed energy. The aforementioned energy made of trauma stuff and what Mahito is composed of. He can use this energy to increase physical stats and or shield specific parts of his body. It can run out though. Idol Transfiguration. The main power Mahito carries with him. Basically, in the world of JJK, soul and body are the same thing, and if this bad boy can reshape your soul by touching your body, you can guess that the physical side effects will include disgusting transfiguration, deformities, and occasionally death. Of course, Mahito can play around with his own body, seemingly regenerating it by reinforcing the shape of his soul, turning it into little weapons, disgusting forms, fake his death by blowing himself into chunks, create decoys, grow new limbs, wings, drills, fins. His body is basically a Play-Doh and his imagination is basically a kid who just downloaded Minecraft. He can even pull some Looney Tunes shit and hide inside someone, however he cannot choose which souls to touch or not. So if a being has multiple souls with him, he will have to touch them all, at his own risk and peril. Instant body or distorted killing. This guy really needs to get better with names, but anyway, in his last fight, he unlocked his ultimate form, the essence of his soul, increasing his power up to 200%, creating shockwaves that can tear the ground. A sufficiently strong attack will knock him out though, especially if it targets his soul. Black Flesh. When you apply cursed energy into your face for 1/1,000,000th of a second, space itself is warped and it makes for one devastating punch. Few in the verse mastered this technique, Mahito being one of them, with the Black Flesh increasing his combat performance with a maximum potential of 120%. Domain. Basically a mental and spiritual landscape that everyone in JJK has, but only sorcerers and curses can unavoidably expand it into physical reality. Which leads us into the ever famous domain expansion, Self-Embodiment of Perfection. With a name like that, I'm pretty sure even Perfect Cell will find it overkill, but I digress. Mahito's domain consists of a black void full of hands and arms. Within his domain, Mahito is connected to the souls of anyone inside, and all attacks will land with no error. It's extremely difficult to escape or find the boundaries of. The more reinforced it is inside, that means, however, the less reinforced it is outside. Also, unless you're Gojo or Sukuna, using it even once is extremely draining, to the point where a Mahito would need 10 days to fully restore his energy afterwards. Also, Mahito lacks the skill to individually touch souls inside his own domain, and attracting Sukuna's attention is a no-go. Yeah, as surprising as it may sound, Shigaraki has way too many forms of mobility, recognition, area of effect, adaptation, energy blast, and semi-physics controlling powers to genuinely say Mahito comes anywhere close in this department. And that's before decay even enters the conversation. Mahito's regeneration is not worthy, even restoring himself for small chunks, but note that he needs chunks to reform from, which decay would not allow in the slightest, especially given the colossal speeds and area of effect. Mahito could be slightly grazed by surrounding debris, and yes, decay would spread even there, like a freaking ground virus. The death of the body would mean the death of the soul, and the death of the soul would mean the death of Mahito. But look, you say, shouldn't cursed spirits be invulnerable to non-sorcerer humans? Well, here's the thing. Shigaraki physical stats operate on a scale that Mahito's cannot even comprehend. There's literally nothing stopping Twinkenstein over here from being flung across the continents for as long as Shigaraki feels like playing soccer for the first time in his life, and I am barely exaggerating. On top of the massive durability advantage, Shigaraki's evolved regeneration nullifies any physical damage done to him, leaving Mahito with very little options besides idle transfiguration, aka let me touch your soul. Except, call it a deja vu, because Mahito will again find himself in a mental world that may just be too crowded for his liking, with a terrifying villain who's not too keen when it comes to spiritual trespassers. That's right, Shigaraki is a vessel for All For One in a similar way Yuji is for Sukuna, and the two villains share a very similar presence power that makes everyone around them feel pure, stomach-twisting terror. It's not even a matter of Shigi and All For One alone. It's the fact that each quirk All For One has contains a vestige that he can control and seek on Mahito like hounds. Again, just ask Star and Stripes. Shigaraki's own Vestiges-Soul is defended by a black mass so defensive that he broke through Deku's attempts to spiritually interact with it via pure willpower. As a kind reminder, Mahito backed off when he encountered one spiritual defense, and since he is unable to target souls individually, this might be a good point for Mahito to make a peace with a god of his choosing. Though I'm pretty sure we all want Mahito to face the sweet karmic defeat or dying by a touch-based ability. And good luck trying to spiritually regenerate from that, because Mahito can only mold his soul to replicate the effects of healing, but not the actual process. And good luck coming back for nothing, because that's what Shigaraki is about to turn you into, bro. Stamina and Regen. Thanks to the modifications provided by Dr. Garaki, Shigi can regenerate entire limbs in seconds. This came in handy when it came to surviving the aforementioned several missiles, intense burns and internal damage even inside the skull, all of which he healed from immediately. Granted, it's not limitless, for if you can keep spamming powerful attacks to overwhelm his body before he can regenerate, things might get tricky even for Shigi. The tentacle things I mentioned earlier even allow him to power through immense pain. Now, Mahito does not use the standard healing technique in JJK, which is called reverse curse technique, but he reinforces the shape of his soul to mimic that effect, restoring himself even for small chunks. If you wanna bypass his healing, you would need to interact with the soul directly, aka the source of his idol transfiguration. Destroy his soul and you destroy him. There's also an implied limit to how much Mahito can mutate himself or others, as his cursed energy supplies are not limitless and he will deplete if you beat him down enough, hence why he loves to run away, and domain expansion will leave him even more drained. Shigaraki's evolution allows him to generate whole new body parts, from waves of hands, heads or even a whole new upper body. This last part comes with a temporary decrease in durability though. This means that if Mahito tries to turn Shigaraki's arms into weird flesh snakes, evolution will just generate hundreds and hundreds of new hands and arms, all able to use his many destructive quirks. His stamina allowed him to fight his fellow villain Gigantomachia for 44 hours and 44 minutes over the span of one and a half months. So yeah, Shigaraki takes stamina. So allow me to paint a picture for you, it's a very funny one. Taking in consideration everything we covered so far, Shigaraki is more experienced by over a century margin, 61 times faster, 9 million times more durable, 2 billion times stronger, has a catastrophically superior area of effect, can create cities worth of decay-inducing fingers, all immune to soul attacks since they're not part of his main body, can regenerate from pretty much anything Mahito can throw at him, can resist attacks to the soul, can escape Mahito's domain before it even closes, if not decaying it outright, can exhaust Mahito's cursed energy reserves, especially post-domain expansion, cannot be affected by Mahito's psychological tricks, and you know what, can probably yeet him into space at this point. On Mahito's side of things, we have being initially invisible, which can help with sneaky attacks, has a slightly better end-to-end experience, doesn't play League of Legends. That is it. Yeah, again, I hope you can see why I describe this as Omni-Man VS Homelander 2 Anime Boogaloo. The only way for Mahito to win here is to literally read and watch My Hero Academia blindfolded and deaf, on top of the whole Vestiges are basically souls for all intents and purposes thingy. Still though, despite this being a stomp, I'm really looking forward to the animation, especially since it's animated by Moro. I love Scourge with all of my heart, but I can't lie, I really miss having a proper horror themed episode. And between the disgusting body horror these two can bring to themselves or others, the creepy hand aesthetics and potential for civilian casualties, I think this one can deliver. I'm hoping for a gorgeous animation that capitalizes on Mahito's creative shape-shifting and Shigaraki's many superpowers. They even have some of the same stuff, like wings, grasshopper legs, experimented minions and so forth, an extremely eerie soundtrack and dialogue on par with Ghost Spawn at least. I'm not saying these two are written like Shakespeare or anything, but Mahito is literally the embodiment of humanity's fear, hatred and negligence towards one another, towards itself. Meaning that Shigaraki is literally about to fight the embodiment of everything that molded him into what he is. You could say, hey Mahito, I am you. They both could tell I am you to each other. You can't tell me that alone doesn't bring mad interaction potential. Also, you know, Shigaraki actually cares about his friends, so maybe he could start with Mahito mutilating Toga, Dabi or twice. Maybe the parallels with Homelander would become too blatant by that point, but hey, I'm just picking up ideas on the spot, and it could result in an utterly terrifyingly pissed Shigaraki for Mahito to run away from. That said though, don't do like Shigaraki sleeps and drink lots of water instead. I'll do the same. Hoko Krypton, hoping I made your day slightly better.